Okay. Hello, and welcome to Authentic Points of View, Season 4. I'm so excited. This is episode 2, and here we are live with McKenna. So excited. And I'm really excited about today's guest. Oh, I'm so excited. It's something that I actually would have loved help with when I was young. So it's our first guest of the season and the first guest that McKenna is interviewing with me. So she's very special and awesome already, and she's going to be special to us. I'll always remember this interview. Sabina Dahlmeyer, she specializes in working with students and helps parents who are dealing with math anxiety and avoidance. So go ahead and say.
Welcome to the show, Sabina Dahlmeyer.
Oh, thank you, McKenna. It's so great to be here. I love talking about math anxiety.
Yay. I'm excited, but it might give me anxiety. I'm just joking. I not anymore. So I really honestly wish I had somebody back in high school that helped me. I had to get a tutor once. And a lot was going on in my math class in ninth grade, but I also was scared because I didn't understand and nobody took the time to explain it to me. And so I had 30 minutes. Went to school in a military base. I had 30 minutes with a awesome person that was in the military that came during our lunch and really explained something to me. And from that, I brought my grade up from like a D to a B just from 30 minutes. So you're awesome. And I think it's so cool for you to help, the parents, which is cool, and the kids. So
what inspired you to become a math teacher?
Yeah, so actually, my degree is in theater, which is so funny. I have met some other teachers, but when I started teaching math, I was the drama teacher and math teacher at the school that I was working at. And being a math teacher let me be really flexible, and I got to work in some very cool jobs, right? I got to work some part-time interesting jobs, and that was really what led me to stay working with math. But then the other thing is there's a big problem in math, and I love to solve problems. So 93% of American adults say that they've experienced math anxiety. So that's pretty much everyone. And most people like you, Danielle, have a story where it was a really hard class. It was a really tough teacher. It was a concept. There's a memory for most people about when that happened. So I love being able to help educate parents and teachers about how we can have a little more compassion in the math classroom.
That's amazing. Okay, so theater. I mean, hello. I love theater, and if anybody knows me, I don't talk about it a lot, but I wanted to be an actress, and I've done some background stuff. So when we watch shows and stuff, and they make teachers do different things, is that kind of what happened with the how you got into math? Is like, oh, we don't have a math teacher, and you kind of just got thrown into that.
Yeah, so I was another area that I enjoy working with is English language learners. That's been the population I've worked with. So I was working one of those jobs and the job ended. It was like a short contract. And I just started walking around with my resume and I put algebra as an interest on my resume. So absolutely no qualifications, but I walked into a high school and they said, sure. And so I started working at a very difficult school with an incredible staff, and I just stayed in math after that. So yeah, I definitely fell into it. I'm actually licensed by my state to teach up through calculus, but I've actually never taken calculus. So I love math, but I have not explored a ton of high level coursework because I fell into it right after college.
OMG. Okay. Wow. So that is so cool. I mean, like honestly, you're so intelligent because to just be able to like, that's a hard subject to get thrown into, right? And so, do you have a you want to make
Oh, so when you got your degree, did you ever think that you would be able to teach math, or was that just?
You know what? And so someone told me, McKenna, that math is your favorite subject. So when I was in school, the math curriculum that I was doing required me to do 30 problems every night. And I was not good at doing 30 problems every night. Like that's what I wasn't good at. So no one ever told me that I was good at math. When I got older, I had some friends tell me, they were like, "Don't you remember, Sabina, you were tutoring all of us?" And I was like,
Aw.
I don't remember. I never felt like I was good at math because I was really bad at turning in my homework. And so I would love to hear, McKenna, what made math fun for you? Because I didn't discover math fun until I was an adult.
So I like you said, I like solving problems, and I just think that since math is something that you'll use a lot when you get older, that it's good to start liking it now. And I just like it because it's like something that you'll really need, and so I just put myself in a situation where I really like math, so I'll be used to it when I grow up.
Yeah.
Dude, McKenna, what an incredible thing to say. One thing that I work, I have a full-time teaching job and I work with students who have failed a math class previously, right? And so
Aw.
many of them have kind of decided the big problem that everyone always says is, I'm never going to need to learn this. But I love what you're saying, McKenna, because what I tell them is I say, you know what, this is real life right now, and you're using math right now. So that is one way that we use math in real life. But the other thing is math can be really, really hard. And if you can learn in your math class that you can do hard things, what an incredibly safe place to learn that instead of having to learn that at your first part time job or maybe in your first challenging relationship. I love for my students to be able to tackle math, something that seems impossible to them, and then to prove to themselves that it's not impossible and that they can do things that they think are hard. And you've embraced that so fully. So cool to hear.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I didn't say it, but thank you for yeah. But that and it's awesome. And I actually have 3 out of 4 kids that love math, and one of them is a chef, so he uses like math for measuring and different things. And the other one, which you don't really think of that, of course, like you're not like I'm going to be a chef and I'm gonna, calculate these these ingredients. But then the other one is going for computer science. And so he uses a lot of math and calculations. And then the other one is her. And then my other son is more like me, and that's okay. And my second son got diagnosed with ADHD at 4. And so I am not diagnosed, but I have a lot of, if I take a test, I have almost all of them. Check, check, check. So I look back and I'm like, oh, so that's probably what it was. If you gave me a math problem, no, thank you. I can't. It's too much going on in it. And so that was like part of my issue as well. And I like that you said about the teaching thing, because honestly, I'm not gonna, this is for children now. If this was seasons before this, I would tell what happened, but now I want this to be appropriate for children. But my teacher was not doing great things during school. She would literally leave us during class. And I think the next year or the year after she got fired, but she would leave us during class. She didn't pay attention. She would be eating Popeyes and all this stuff. And no offense, I love Popeyes, but just all kinds of stuff. And so it's like, it was more of a like free period than actually getting to learn anything. And so that's where I really one of the things I struggled with. I took math in college because I had to. And I got now statistics is a little different, but I got like a 96% in statistics. So
Okay, but can we say people love to qualify their success, right? Like, well, stats is so different. I did get an A in a college level math class, but I still don't see myself as successful in math, right? Like, that's a little silly. The other thing that I want to say, because I think it could be helpful to your audience as well, it is super, super easy and common for moms, especially, to pass math anxiety to their kids. So a lot of people know about like your reading level, your parents' education level often predicts like your reading success by third grade, right? So if your parents have master's degrees, you're more likely to be a more proficient reader. There's a lot of intricacies, and that's a little bit controversial. There's a lot going on in there. But what they did find is that the same prediction isn't true in math, right? No matter how educated your parents are, it's not predictive of your math success. And I think a lot of that is because parent attitudes towards math shape their kids' attitudes much, much more than their actual math knowledge. So the fact that you were able to feel that math anxiety and not pass it on to your kids is pretty remarkable. I would love to hear if you have any insight for your listeners about how you think you kept yourself from passing that on to your kids, because most of the families that I talk to, I'll call and say, "Hey, I'm concerned about your student." And they're like, "Yeah, I was never good at math either." And then it's just this cycle that we're all believing and participating in.
yeah. So I'm going to ask her actually, and then I'll tell you what I think. But I want to know what she thinks because again, we shifted the show to help like ages 10 to 16, and this is really relevant actually from probably 5 and up. But so I would like to hear from McKenna, and just McKenna, can you tell us like, did I ever force my, like, because this is honest, like this is so honest. Like I thought she was gonna answer something the first episode one way and she did it. I was like, oh, okay. But do you feel like I ever like, put my thoughts about different subjects on you, or okay?
No.
Go ahead and explain what, and then I'll tell you what my opinion is.
I feel like I'm free to like whatever I want, and I don't have to like something just because my mom wants me to. Like I can put it into consideration, but she would never force me to do something.
Did you know that your mom didn't like math?
No.
Okay, look at you.
What? I thought you liked math.
Oh,
And
sure. What is that?
And that sounds like a family culture decision too. Like she felt that freedom and felt empowered. Super amazing. McKenna, thanks for sharing.
Thank you. And so with me, I tried now, again, I had kids at 18 and 20. They're grown men. And then I had her, and then I got my bonus son when he was 4. And so then I had her when I was 30. And I had went to college. And honestly, I think me actually doing okay in college math helped. And that's why, again, it didn't go on her. But even with the boys,
You got an A, you didn't do okay.
No, I wanted 100. And I was pregnant with her. Actually, I was pregnant with her during that class, and I wanted 100. It was very funny. And the teacher's like, "Are you crazy?" The 96 is okay or whatever. 97, I can't remember. But yes. So with a lot of things, I tried to break the generational curse of things that happened in my family, especially now that I'm older and I have more time and I'm a nurse and I have a stable income and stuff. When I was mothering the boys, and I was a single mom of 2 boys, one with multiple diagnoses. Now I might have passed on stuff, but I don't feel like I did because they did really well. I encouraged them, and that's what I want to say to parents too. I encourage my kids to try and to like and to do things and figure it out a little bit on their own. Now I was pretty overprotective with the boys. I learned from that. And now I don't enable, I don't overprotect, because that's just a recipe for disaster. So I've learned. So with her, for example, like she's ripping her pants. I'm sorry. See, this is such an honest, we're so honest here. Don't do that. Okay, sorry. So with her, I would get her help because I probably wouldn't be able to help her the way that they teach math, but she doesn't need it, thank goodness. But I encourage her, and I also keep her responsible for things. So for example, what class do you mind talking about it? When we went to that class and Miss Kendall, I think, was,
Yeah.
yeah. So she had A's and everything except for that class. And so we were kind of discussing like, oh, why? And so you don't have to say why, but
I
anyway,
can say it.
it's okay.
I didn't know if you wanted me to. Oh, I had to be in that class because I didn't do good on one assignment, and then it dropped my grade down to a B.
But did you try your hardest?
On the assignment?
Uh-huh.
Well, if
It's
I'm
okay.
being completely honest, that wasn't one of my brightest moments. I was tired and I wanted to go home.
It's
So
okay.
no,
It-
But
not
it
really.
happens.
But
right?
that's why I try extra hard now.
Yeah.
But you learn from those experiences as well,
Yes.
right? And again, just I love the way that you're talking about how you intentionally created a positive environment around academics. And it can be challenging, especially for certain populations who have been especially, affected by school and negative school experiences. And so I do think it's important for everyone, no matter how young you are, to like acknowledge whatever those negative math experiences were. I encourage teachers and parents to ask your students, like, what's your math story? I'll never forget talking to one student who said, I got a concussion. This was a young kid, probably elementary age. He got a concussion and he missed a couple weeks of school. It was kind of a mild concussion. He's a high level athlete, or was a rising athlete at that time. And to him, that 2 weeks was unrecoverable. He learned something in math there that he could never get back. And sometimes we have the opportunity to like kind of unpack some of those moments for people that like, yeah, you did miss 2 weeks of school, but you're safe and we'll go over it and you're not behind. Sometimes people will get in this narrative that you're behind. So I love you and I love that story. And thank you, McKenna, for sharing that story. Sometimes when you dig a little bit, you can find out, sometimes I think we look at a big picture, we might look at a B on a report card and say, this isn't like you. But if you dig deeper, you can really get to some of the character lessons that are more lifelong.
And thank you. You're so awesome, Sabina. But honestly, yeah, that's what it's about. Because like to me, it's what they're trying, right? And if you know your kid and you're paying attention, you know when they're actually putting their best foot forward and when they're struggling for real or when they're just saying, well, whatever, So, and I'm very blessed. I had all different, children. So with my oldest one and my third one, that's my bonus son, and with her, they learned a little bit more easier. Now my son is in college and he actually like said, oh wow, my time management isn't great because things came easier to him before. And so, you kind of have to adjust and adapt, but every child is different. As a parent, you have to learn. You can't say, well, Johnny didn't need help. You can't do that. It's going to make them feel bad and they're not going to try. They're not going to want to learn. And that's the whole thing. If you don't like it, y'all, nobody's gonna, they're not gonna try. So it seems like, Sabina, that you're a great fun teacher. How did you even come up with this program for math avoidance and math anxiety? And I also am fascinated that 93%. Wow, that's a lot. Like I'm super fascinated that people have it.
Yeah. So there's an incredible author that most people know, Jo Boaler, Joboaler. She wrote a book called What's Math Got to Do with It? I probably have it right here somewhere, but it's a book I recommend for parents and students if you're struggling with math anxiety. So she started talking a lot about growth mindset and things like that. But what I really started seeing was that I really value relationships highly. That's like probably my highest priority. So when I started building relationships with my students, I started to see that most people, Algebra 1, like you said earlier, can definitely be a triggering kind of experience for a lot of people. And that's because it's the gateway to higher level math. It's a new level, it's a new step. And it's not that hard though. but people have this story and belief that it's too hard for them or that they're some way like unteachable in these subjects. And when I started to look into it, it's kind of like a cascade, right? So we're not 100% sure where math anxiety comes from because they're seeing it in kindergartners.
Oh,
And
wow.
so there's some thought, right? There's like the popular opinion, which is people with math anxiety are just people who are bad at math. Of course, they have anxiety. They don't know how to do the math, so it causes anxiety. I think it's obviously a little more complex than that, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes the experience, a negative math experience, makes you self-identify as someone who's bad at math. And then you get this negative thought pattern, closes down your working memory. You're not able to do as much math. But number one, people who feel negatively about math don't do math as much. So they get less practice and then they become less able to do math. So
Right.
it's a cascade, right? So I work mostly with students who are about to do like that scary state testing, that high stakes testing. And we really talk a lot about managing those feelings and thoughts around math, right? So tell your story and then kind of reflect on that story and see if it's true or false. And then also know the mechanics of your brain. The mechanics of your brain is that a certain level of anxiety is good. That's how, like, I don't know, McKenna, do you play soccer or softball or any of those sports?
I do color guard.
She just had a
Color guard.
Yeah, yesterday she had her first competition, and I didn't know they had it in 6th grade. And they got what place, McKenna?
We got second place.
Yeah.
Woo! So so right before your color guard competition, you were a little bit nervous, I assume. Everybody was. That level of anxiety is good. That's your body saying, hey, do your best, be on your A game. Once you reach a threshold above that, your working memory really shuts off and you feel dumb. It really feels dumb. It feels like the knowledge that you have is not there, but it is there. It's behind a locked door. And I hate for my students that they feel dumb. I don't want this is doable for you. You can do it. And so we spend a lot of time teaching them strategies how to open that door and how to de-emotionalize math, right? We take a lot of practice tests, we reflect on them. So many times students have a failure in math and they never get the opportunity to understand that failure. So that's kind of how I built my career out in that way. I was lucky enough to be given a lot of really unique opportunities. Right now, I work for a fully virtual public school, and I just get to work
Wow.
with the Algebra 1 kids who failed the state test the year before. So we get to really focus in on this really pivotal moment for most people in math. Because, McKenna, good news, the best indicator of future income is the number of math classes you take in college. So people who are willing to engage math make more money, and so it's good news. The more people I can get to engage with math, the more I can really improve their lives.
Wow.
Really
She said loaded then McKenna.
Math
funny.
careers,
I
math
love it.
careers are low stress, low competition, high paying.
That's funny.
Yes.
Okay.
In what ways is it important for you to teach parents and students?
Oh, what a great question. Okay. So, like your mom has done such a good job at, I have a lot of parents who don't have as good of an understanding of math anxiety. Danielle, I don't know if your parents ever yelled at you over your homework, but
Yeah.
I think a lot of people who are my age and older have that experience of being yelled at. And McKenna, another aspect is like your mom actually mentioned, a lot of parents think the way they teach it now is kind of unlearnable for them. So I think I need to engage parents to be like, hey, get back in the game. Hey, you can do it. Try now. Love your kids through algebra. And then also don't talk smack about math to your kids. It doesn't help anybody. So I do try to meet with parents regularly. I do give them opportunities. There's a lot of great picture books about math. I wish I had one right here that and if you I can send you some links, but for parents to really show interest in math around their kids, we know that like if you want your kids to be readers, read in front of them, right? We see that a lot. Like, how do you get your kids off screens? And then it's you sitting there with a book, like model that behavior. If parents could model some of that behavior with math, I think we could see a lot of rich people here get those high paying math careers.
I love that. And so I wanted to say something too. What I do with her, and I'm blessed to be able to be involved because I went to literacy night and they actually talked about not only like the reading, but also like stuff with math and everything. And so with her, like I'll say, what did I just do with percentages? I'll say, hey, can you figure out this percentage for me?
Mm-hmm.
Can you do this for me? Can you like we were what were we doing? I don't even remember what we were doing.
We were at the store and something was like 20% off, and she said, "How much would it be with that percentage off?"
Yeah, so I try to encourage that and add. We actually do a lot of math stuff a lot. Like even upstairs, we were trying, or what is the length of this, or what do we need to do with this? And so it probably also helps me too. But I think it's good. I'm sorry, my dog is so barking. But it's good to like just keep it fresh and like just keep practicing. So that's something that parents can do as well. And then maybe they can teach us like how do you learn it? Can you show me how you learn it? Because it was different when I learned it. And so it makes it more fun for them. I would right?
So good.
But we're learning algebra now.
Already.
I'm in 6th grade. And
Yeah.
my teacher said I'm gonna be in algebra 2. And
Yeah.
I don't know if that's better or bad, but
So this is super interesting, and I want young kids to understand this, that so there's some stuff, there's some ugly stuff behind math education, and some of it sometimes in 5th grade you can be tracked, right? So your teacher decides in 5th grade if you're on the advanced track or the regular track. And the problem is that a lot of times you can't move from there. So heaven forbid you have a hard 5th grade year. Maybe there's trouble at home. Maybe you just moved. Maybe there's friend drama. And that can determine how far you can get in math, right? So McKenna, the highest kids I've ever seen go into 9th grade are in algebra 2. So you would take, maybe pre-algebra this year, algebra next year, geometry in 8th grade, and then algebra 2 in 9th grade. Those are the most advanced kids. So then algebra 2, you've met all your graduation requirements. So now you have 3 more years to do the higher level math, which is incredible and will set you up to be at a much better place in college where you won't have to pay for some of those courses there. But kids who are in that lower track, that regular track, they may get to algebra 1 in 9th grade. And that means algebra 1, geometry, algebra 2, pre-calc, they can't get there. They don't have the opportunity. And so parents who can be math averse may not be willing to have that conversation with a guidance counselor. Guidance counselors may not be fully laying out those options to parents and students. So it's hard. It's multi-layer. I know I'm a little bit in the weeds here, but the level of math that you get to can vary a lot from person to person.
I love it. And so that's as me, like not being great. Well, I'm not going to say I'm not great at math because I have to use math. It's just a different kind of math, like kilograms to pounds and converting and stuff like that. So, but with my boys, like my oldest son was in a high school class in middle school. And so for math, and I was so proud of him. I was like, yeah. And so he had to go early. It was awesome. And so I encouraged it. I didn't say like, oh, I can't believe you're doing that. I was like, okay, woohoo. And then my third son, my bonus son, he got to be in the high school class in 7th grade. And my other son was in 8th grade. So he just made it a year earlier. And I was like, you go. And so it's the thing of like being supportive, right? And so like she's in a million clubs and all this stuff. And what I tell her is, I'm proud of you, but if your grades slip, right, that's when we need to shift focus. And because it's awesome to be, everybody's like, it's a resume builder. I'm like, okay, I get that. But you also, if she gets overwhelmed and she's not learning what she needs to learn, then we need to kind of like, check it out and see. But what are 3 like tips you would give to a child, let's just say in algebra 1, to help them with the math anxiety?
Awesome. Great question. So the first thing is have a great teacher like me. No,
Yay!
no,
Everybody
find.
has a-
Woo!
Yes.
We would love to make that happen. Okay. So the first thing that I do recommend that students, if you're in that Algebra 1 level, you are old enough to kind of reflect a little bit. Okay. So if you're feeling completely stuck, write about it. Write yourself a little letter, identify where you felt stuck. And then one thing that we don't do, and I think we do it better in virtual school, you're allowed to learn the stuff however you learn it, right? So number one, write yourself a letter. Write a letter to math, like, hey, math, I'm really mad at you. This was really hard. Or in 4th grade, we were doing ratios and I really lost it and no one ever helped me. And I felt alone and I felt isolated. I talked to my wonderful mom and she remembers even in elementary school feeling like every other kid knew the answer, but she didn't. So like get that out, journal about it, honor those feelings enough. Okay, but then determine that you can learn it. I think so. I have a family member who's a teacher in a traditional school, and they told me they were covering a math class and the girl was crying because she couldn't understand. A student in the class was crying. She couldn't understand. The teacher never helps. And he's big on ChatGPT. He pulled it up and used it to explain to the student. And so many teachers would be furious with a tool like that being used in their classroom. But I think we have to empower students that they're allowed to learn it. You're allowed to go find a resource and use that to teach yourself. Okay, no shame for getting help. So 1, write yourself a letter. 2, empower yourself to start learning. And 3, start where you are. Don't try to go backwards. I have a lot of kids, a lot of students that I teach who are so concerned that they're so behind. They'll go on to something like IXL or Khan Academy and they'll start in kindergarten. And they think that they need every skill. They think they're so behind that they need every skill. But trust your brain and start where you are. Go to IXL or Khan Academy if that's where you're comfortable, or go to ChatGPT, whatever, but start where you are and then kind of build forward. Trust your brain, build forward. I hope that's actionable enough.
I think that is amazing. I'm writing it down because that's like, it's so great. What you're teaching is also life skills. So like that's how, because I'm a life coach, definitely not for math, but but it's just like kind of like shifting your mindset. And that's so amazing. And I know that you would help me back in the day. So wow. Do you want
At my school, we use IXL, and
she was laughing when he said
we used to use Dreambox, which, to be honest, I'm kind of glad we don't use that anymore because it was so difficult to manage with that. Because they would give us like 5 Dreambox assessments every day, and we would have to do them. But Dreambox is something that takes a lot of time, and now that we use IXL, that takes a lot of time too. Because if you mess up a question, then it takes like 5 points, and then when you get another one right,
Yeah.
it gives 2 more. I'm like,
that's what people hate about IXL, but IXL is AI based. It's going to go at your pace, which is nice. So you're not going to waste time, which is good.
yeah, we get 4 IXLs in every class each week, and it's a lot.
That is a lot.
5 classes. I'm not going to count sections, but 5 classes.
That's because your school paid tens of thousands of dollars for it.
Yeah.
I can imagine.
So they're just gonna keep on making us use it.
Yes.
So people don't really like IXL at my school, but I think that it's a good program. It's just you have to know what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're struggling, then you might want to start off with something that like Dreambox. You might want to go back and work on that because Dreambox is something that's like
The more basic.
Yeah.
Well, this is great. I have a tip because a lot of schools do have IXL. And so if you're a kid who's struggling in your school and you have an IXL account, there's the diagnostic. Do you do the diagnostic?
Yes, at the beginning of the year we find our level.
Yeah.
There's like this thing, it's like find your arena or something.
Yes,
And
enter
then
the
you have to,
arena.
yeah, and then you have to do it, and it's like a few questions, not too many.
Yeah.
And then it puts you on your level. And like another good thing that I like is that you could go back to 5th grade and do some of their lessons. And then
Yes. So if you're a struggling student and you have access to IXL, or if you're a parent, IXL sells homeschool accounts. They're not as expensive. And do the diagnostic. It takes 45 minutes the first time, but you can break it up into like a couple days of 15 minutes or whatever. And then you just have to do 15 minutes a week to keep the diagnostic updated. But that is like high quality AI assisted learning. Like that is the way that you can identify the skills that you need help with, get practice, and get help with them. So IXL for the win for sure if you have access.
we also do Khan Academy, but we don't do that as much. We do mostly IXL.
What's it called?
Khan Academy. It's where our teacher like assigns us stuff based on our level. And it's like we have little characters and they go on adventures and stuff.
We have a friend.
Hello there. I see you. I see you. You're so cute.
She is so sweet.
Oh, but so I have a question. Okay, I guess it's just the times, and I graduated in the year 2000 to tell my age. So how, like to me in my mind, it would be difficult for me, I think, to learn math not in person. So what do you incorporate, or how do you help someone virtually as opposed to like having a board and getting to go up to the board and writing it down?
Well, I'm going to get a little bit controversial because people really can clutch some pearls over this one. You let students trust themselves. Okay. So I am also a homeschool mom, so I can be a little bit like outside of the box, but kids can do it. So in my class, I provide them with the tools that they need. And this is actually called connectivism. It's like a theory of education and stuff. I'm such a geek. I'm sorry. I read, but I give my students tasks that are meaningful to them. I support them to complete the tasks, and then I give them feedback on their tasks, right? So I give my students a very challenging assessment. I give them their results. I give them work to reflect on their results, and then I connect them with the resources they need to fill their own learning gaps. And this is because that's real life, right? I love you. I care about you in public school, in traditional school. I believe that that's appropriate for many people, but I know so many adults and young adults, people grow into this, but young adults who can only work when someone's watching them. And in virtual school, you learn some skills of self-motivation. So not every teacher does it this way, but for me, I want you to prove yourself to yourself. So it's my job to coach you and provide high quality, appropriate resources to catch you when you're slipping, to monitor your progress. But I believe in you and your brain and that you're strong enough to do it. And I know many teachers think that's a cop-out, or teachers will accuse, well, all your students are just cheating. And it's like, well, maybe yours are too. I don't know. Sorry to get a little edgy there, but I really want my kids to leave with greater belief in themselves. So that's what I try to foster.
That's beautiful. And that's great because unfortunately, some kids don't have support at home. And so it seems like that you are that support, and you're so awesome. And I know I'm older than you probably, but I wish I had a teacher like you. Definitely. Because, you know, I just want to say this because it's really important. I had test anxiety since I was a kid and didn't know that I had test anxiety. And so if I would have addressed it as a kid, or had like somebody, like my parents didn't know, I didn't really talk about it. It was so bad to the point in Germany. I lived in Germany. It was 7th grade. They put me in the lowest class of everything, like below average. And I was really upset. And I wish that I would not have responded the way I did. I was actually a spoiled brat. And I really feel so bad for the kids that needed the help, because I was being, I'm no, I'm very ashamed of the way that I acted. But the reason why they put me in that class, it was a reading class. And so they put me in like basically, below average. And so I went there and I was confused. I didn't know why. And it's because I didn't finish the test because I was very anxious. And so they scored me and they're like, well, you scored a 50%. And I was like, but I didn't finish the questions. And so they had us read and stuff. And they're like, you don't belong here. And I was like, I was trying to tell you, I didn't say it the right way. I wish I would have responded. And again, I'm very honest and transparent because you can't go back and change stuff, guys. So I should have thought about how I was responding and how it would affect others. And now I do. That was when I was like 12, okay, or 11. So I'm sorry. But I did not think about everybody else until I saw their faces and I felt horrible for responding like that. And I wasn't trying to make fun of them. I just thought that like, I didn't understand why I was there. So it carried on. Now I didn't go to college for many years because I had kids young and all this stuff. So when I went to college, it was really bad. I would cry. And so during my nursing boards, I cried. I had a panic attack and I still didn't know what it was. And so if your kid tells you like, hey, when I'm taking a test, or sometimes they don't finish them, or there might not be lollygagging around. Maybe they just can't finish it. Maybe they have undiagnosed something, or they just have anxiety with tests. And so I wish that somebody would have like noticed that in me. And the hard part is that I moved around because we were in the military. So there wasn't like a consistent, until I got to Maryland, consistency of like teachers seeing me or somebody knowing me from the year before or something like that. So with a kid that has math anxiety, and if they have test anxiety, how would you kind of approach it differently? I know you say that trust them and all this stuff and mindset stuff, but is there like something specifically that you would help, them with?
Yeah, so test anxiety and math anxiety are closely linked. Most people who experience math anxiety also experience test anxiety, and neither is super well understood. So the thing that I recommend a lot of people do is just stay as curious as possible, right? So when you're approaching your student, ask questions, try to understand what is happening for them. I had a family that I was working with, and their child was a high-level athlete, competition athlete, and they were failing a lot of assessments, including their driver's like learner's permit test and things like that. It was all testing anxiety. And the conclusion that we came to, there was a lot of frustration, like, why can't he just do it? And the conclusion that we came to is, maybe this is something that's very shameful for him as well. So I think you need to have compassion and curiosity, right? But there are strategies that you can use to manage it. And that's kind of outside the scope of this interview. But there are strategies that you can use to manage test anxiety and math anxiety. And when you learn to use those strategies, your performance will improve. So just know that there's hope, there are strategies, and test anxiety is also separate from ability. So one thing that really hit home with me, an analogy that I heard was some very famous actors have stage fright. It doesn't mean that they're not good actors, right? So having test anxiety for young kids especially, and I think of you in Germany, you didn't have the emotional skills at that time because your brain was only so developed to process what was going on. And in the same way, some of these young kids, they just see F's on tests. That's all they see. And that means I'm dumb. And they can internalize this feeling of not good enough or othered or whatever. And so I think you need to be curious, and then you need to do some strategies and see the improvement. The kids who do better in my class, the kids who pass the test with me after they've never passed it before, it's because they give themselves a chance. It's because they learn the strategies, they apply them, and they give themselves a chance. They put themselves back in the game. So that's, I think, the attitude is you have to think, we're just going to get back in the game. This is not life or death. This is not dumb or smart. This is just a game we're playing, and we're going to get better at it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so the difference between high school for me and college is that in college, I was like my prereqs for nursing school, I had kids. I had to make a better life for them. So I asked questions. So I encourage you to ask questions. No matter how somebody makes you feel, if they make you feel like, oh, it's a stupid question, there's no stupid question. Please ask those questions. In college, they would tease me. They were a lot younger than me. They would tease me about asking questions in math. But then I got my first great grades in math because I actually said, I don't care what they say. That grade, if I don't pass nursing school, they're not going to care, right? It's going to affect me in my life. So that I knew that that's what I needed to get through and to become a nurse and all this stuff. So I asked the questions. And so I encourage you to don't worry about what people think. Don't worry about if you stay 1 minute later because you're asking a question. Don't worry about if you have to get tutor or extra help. Because guess what? That clarity, I'm telling you, when it comes to math, it's like a light bulb. When the light bulb went off, I was like, oh, because like you said, with the foundational stuff, you use it for everything. So if you don't understand that first thing, it's like, how do you go to steps 2, 3, 4, 5, 6? Go ahead. Sorry, I'm taking up my. She's been so good.
How did you come up with your teaching program? Were you like inspired, or is this something that you knew you wanted to do when you became a teacher?
So, like you, McKenna, I was a problem solver. There was a problem, and I figured that I could figure out how to solve it. And the problem was at my particular school and at many schools, we had a large group of students who were failing a state test that they needed to graduate. And so I loved the defined parameters of my job, and I could focus just on that. So it was student centered, right? I looked at the problem that the students were having, and then it was problem solving.
She is so cute. How old is she, by the way? And if you're listening, sorry, if you're only audio, her cute little daughter is behind her doing all kinds of stuff. There was a bear. There's a paper.
Yes. Yes. This is my very tall 6-year-old.
Oh, wow. Hi. So if you could go back and tell yourself something, your 13-year-old self, what would you tell yourself?
I mean, I would tell myself that if I keep going with math, I can make a lot of money. So one time, you're military, so you may know. So in high school, I went to a college prep school, but they came and administered the ASVAB at our school. So all of us took ASVAB. I scored in the top 1 or 5%. I can't remember. I scored very, very high on ASVAB there. And recruiters came to my house, to try to get me to join the military. And I just didn't realize like the strength and the love for academia that I would have later. And like, I could have had impact in that job and make a lot more money than I'm making now. So I wish that I had known that I had a really strong brain, that I could figure out difficult problems, and that it was really safe to fail. I think I was too afraid to fail. But failure is so good, and it would have been good to do more failing when I was younger.
Yeah, that's a great point. There's, a lot of people are high achievers, perfectionists, and as a life coach, I see them later on in life, and it really affected a lot of things. And sometimes we are just the most critical on ourselves. And it could be the parents as well. I remember one time my son, and this is not true, but this is his interpretation. He told his teachers that if he got a B, he would be like punished for a year or something. And I was like, not true. And so it was hard with him because my second son was the one with all the diagnosis. He got a lot of help. He was in occupational therapy. He had an IEP and all this stuff. So my older son, I don't want to say jealous, but he would kind of like, he wasn't getting as much attention. And so he thought I was hard. And again, as long as they were trying their hardest, if they didn't understand, please come to me. We will get help. But if you're not putting in the effort, that's when we have a conversation, right? But a B is not bad, which starts with B, but so it's like if your effort was a B effort and that's all you were learning and that's all you could, that's okay. But it was funny how he said that because my other one at one point in time had a 27%. in a class. And that was his best because he didn't understand, you know? And so I got him help, like I said, with occupational therapy and all kinds of stuff. And he had different methods they had to use for him. But don't be afraid to speak up for your kids. Please get them the help. The school might push back. I know virtual is different, but like in the public school, they will push back. They will try to fight an IEP. Please get them help. Look it up. See what, you know, what they can do for you. Kids might need to learn differently. I wish I could take oral tests. I did so well, but they didn't let me.
Yeah,
go ahead.
I would say, I'm sorry, real quick, like just like to me, like saying I wish I could tell every middle school parent is know what math track your kids are on, because you know your kid. And I had so many heartbreaking conversations with people where they were tracked, but their kid was showing a lot of promise in 7th grade, and the only option is something like summer school or grade remediation. But then I also hear more intense ones of students with 504 or IEP plans who have been put in a situation where they're not on track to graduate. And sometimes parents really don't know that. They think that they're in these special sports to catch them up, but there's really no intention to catch them up. And so just, I know this is like a downer note, but make sure that you know the track that your kids are on, because it's just heartbreaking when you speak to parents.
Yeah, I agree. And I've been through a lot with all the different kids. So I've seen it, but it's hard. Every child is different. And so I'm so glad that they have somebody like you to support them. Go ahead. That one. This one.
This one?
Yeah. That. I'm sorry. This one. Say that.
That's yours.
No, go ahead. Say it. Go ahead. Say it.
Oh, new to this season, we went to ask everyone how to stay true to their authentic self.
Yeah, how do you stay true to your authentic self? I don't think I wrote that question out very clearly.
You're doing great. So for me, it has been challenging. Oh my gosh, I'm very emotional all of a sudden, but it has been difficult. This is going to sound weird, but okay. Being honest here is that sometimes it can be difficult when you're really passionate about your profession, when you're really, really about it, and it can feel like you're crazy. So I work hard for my students. I care a lot about their success rate. I pull a lot of data. I call a lot of families. And if you're out there feeling crazy, like you're working harder than everybody else, it's okay. That's what you were built for. And for me, this year, a lot of this year has been learning to figure out that it's okay if I'm going to do things in a different way, because I know that I have to stay true to my students. I know that the outcomes are important. And even if I'm making a bigger deal maybe of it than it needs to be, that's okay. That's how I was built.
That's awesome. And that's a really good point. And that's with a lot of careers. I am a nurse, and sometimes like I have to catch myself because I'll think like, what, like, you know, you can't, everybody's not like you, right? And that's what somebody told me the other day. Everybody's not like you, Danielle. I don't want everybody to be like me. But like as a nurse, you would think that there's certain things that you would recognize and pay attention to because that's what we're supposed to do. And so there's like standards, right? And just like for teachers, there's standards. And so it's okay. And like I do things differently too. Because I'm a life coach, like if I have a second or somebody, you know, right now I do discharge, but when I was in recovery, I might have more time if they were waiting on a room or whatever. But I literally treat people as a whole person. You should, not just what they had surgery on. And so people open up to me about everything, and it's such a blessing, and I love it. And so I do things a little different, and people say stuff about it sometimes, and it's okay because that's me, right? So I'm true to me. There's times where I think like, should I say this? I'm like, no, I can, because like if it helps them, like if they're healing from something or something's going on or whatever, and I've been through it, why not, you know, try to help them in a different way? And so I think it's important to go above and beyond and to do those special things. And that's what makes the experience better. That's what makes people say that Mrs. Dalmeyer is the best teacher I ever had. She believed in me. She was there when nobody else was. She helped me understand something that I never thought I could understand. That's very special. And you're super awesome. Yes.
Going back to what you said about the tests and how you like give them more advanced tests, my teacher gave me a test that was for ninth grade, and I
Wow.
didn't know it at the time. And she said I got higher than I was supposed to get, and so
Great job, McKenna.
So I think that's for students too. I don't know, McKenna, do you ever feel like maybe sometimes people at school are concerned about different things than you're concerned about at school? Can it be hard to be authentic there?
Yeah, I feel like everybody has different issues and problems and things they're worried about. And if you're having a problem in math, then and I'm not, there's nothing wrong with that. Like you can have a problem, it's okay. But I just think that it's okay to have a problem as long as you're working towards your best. As long as you're trying your best and you're working towards trying to like help yourself.
Yeah. Middle school, girl, you're gonna get it. It's quite a time of becoming.
Middle school is not fun.
It definitely is more challenging with her, I'd say, and the times are different than with the older boys, and they were boys. She's a girl, and so I'm like, oh, even as a parent, it's way different because it's like things that were important to the boys are not important to the girls. Things that the boys would never look at, the girls are like, oh, it's like okay. So it happens. I'm trying to look up I'm just going to ask because I was going to look it up. I'm going to put on the bottom your website or is that okay.
Yeah. So my website does have some contact information for me. My website is dallmeyerlearning.com. You can also find Dallmeyer Learning on Facebook. I have a business page there, and I'm in the beginning stages of kind of building out what this next phase in my career is going to be. One thing I'm considering offering is a mom's math or an algebra for math anxiety course for people
Awesome.
just to help. I know a lot of moms are working hard and parents and support systems of students to try to engage with math, but they feel embarrassed or concerned, or they just feel like they are too many rungs down on the ladder. They have too many skills to try to catch up. So right now I do other speaking opportunities, I do educational evaluations, and I do coaching for math anxiety and avoidance.
Oh, we didn't get to ask that really quick. We have like less than 3 minutes. Ask about the avoidance.
Oh, can you like describe what math avoidance is in your eyes?
Yes. Math avoidance is having an A in every class and a D in math. It's having all your homework done except for math. It's having all your IXL caught up, but not math. I have an aunt, shout out to Tia. I don't know if Tia will see this, but I have an aunt who will pretend to do math, right? In the store, if it'll be like, how much is it? And she'll be like, oh, and then when someone else says it, she'll be like, yeah. And they'll be like, no. And like, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. So she has this whole act that she does to avoid doing math. And there's just so much there. Like, I do think that this math avoidance goes all the way up into adulthood. And some people even choose their careers based on how many math credits they need for the degree. And that's just too bad. There could be great people who feel like they could go into mental health, but there are some math requirements and that keeps them from pursuing that. I think that's so tragic. I've been in Facebook groups where I've seen articles written where people say, 13 careers that you don't need math for. And it just breaks my heart. Like, why cut off a whole area of the world to yourself? You can do it. It's not too hard for you.
Yay, I love it. Okay, so with your program, is it like a certain amount of weeks or how?
So the program doesn't exist yet, but I can make it exist. Right now I'm just doing evaluations as well as like some coaching and adding some resources to my website. But I would like to launch a course here pretty soon. So go ahead and inbox me. We'll make it magic.
Yay. All right. You are so awesome. Thank you so much for coming on and being our first guest of the season. And McKenna's first guest. You did a great job, McKenna.
Thank you.
McKenna, you are an impressive young woman. It's great to
Thank
hear from
you.
you and be in this room with you. Magical.
Thank you. Thank you for being the amazing teacher that you are and making a difference in people's lives, especially with math. Like you said, there's like a stigma against math and mental health, but for some reason with math, and it is important, and we use numbers every single day. So thanks again. Is there anything you want to say before we get off? Or
No, I think I got it. Please be sure to reach out if you think that I can be helpful to you. It is great to be here.
thank you
Thank
so
you.
much, Sabina. You have a great day. I hope
Bye.
Bye. I hope something you heard today helps you change your authentic point of view.